It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, and we've got the wondrous Andrew Brandt, the star and host of the Business of Sports podcast. You see him all over Sports Illustrated, all over every alley. He was on the McAfee show yesterday. He is everywhere. It is his time to shine with all of the off-the-field issues in the NFL right now. We will have winners tomorrow. Those of you that spread the word via social media at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod, or you just give us a 5-star review. Those of you that take advantage of any of our sponsors like LinkedIn or Athletic Greens. And then the YouTube shout out, which I love. So much positive feedback from Monday's show. I'm going to give Andrew a tip of the cap for that when I talk to him momentarily, because it was more or less his idea. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Check him out on social media at Andrew Brandt. That's where you can find everything he's up to always. His Sunday newsletter has become, the Sunday 7 has become a staple for me now. It's quick. It's funny how quickly something goes from you don't subscribe to like you look for it every Sunday, which is awesome. So Andrew, I don't know if you know this or not, but Monday, Brian had travel, and I had a listener who had reached out after they heard your Business of Sports, in which one of your Villanova students interviewed you. And Matthew Mullen, he's a PhD candidate at Notre Dame. He said, listen, I listened to Andrew's Business of Sports. It was awesome. I just want to volunteer my services. If you ever need somebody, want somebody, let me know. I said, okay, I might take you up on that. Well, it turned out we had to record 5:30 a.m. on Monday. I said, hey, Matthew, how badly do you want to interview me? He's like, let's do it. Andrew, it's almost as much feedback as I've gotten from a show in a while. The YouTube comments, the emails. I had no idea he was going to ask me. He asked me about like leaders and coaching my kids and, balancing football and school at Princeton. I can't believe how much positive feedback I've gotten. It's been amazing.
I got the same. It's a great idea. And I'm glad you did. I did see clips on that. And I I just found out that maybe that was inspired from my students doing the same. That was awesome. And it was a great opportunity for me to have students, one of whom is graduated now studying for the bar, and one is just coming up after her first year and law school. So I think you and I should make a pledge that we're going to do that maybe once every few months and let listeners in on us, not necessarily our insights into football, but on us. So great idea. Glad you did it. Glad I did it. We'll do it again.
You know what I think, in all sincerity, about media? I think people come to the show initially because they're looking for content, they're looking for insight, they're looking for information, they want to learn. I think that's why I let people listen to podcasts. But I think after a few episodes, I think they really either stay or not based on whether or not they like you. You know what I mean? Like, I think people that listen to McAfee like Pat McAfee. People that listen to me like me. People listen to sports, and I know they're getting the content they want. But I think in general, they just like that person, and they want to hear more from that person.
I think it's so interesting that we're in this age of media, which, listen, I've been on ESPN, you've been on ESPN, I'm in Sports Illustrated, the big legacy brands. I get it. But I agree with you. People go where their talent is, where their guy is, where their woman is, where there's someone, I look at Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Pat McAfee, and to a lesser extent us. We're not with a big legacy brand. You don't go to ESPN to find these people. You don't go to CBS. You don't go to Fox. You go where they are. Pat McAfee people can ask, well, who's he with? He's with himself. He's with himself. Who's Ross Tucker with? He's with Ross Tucker. Like these kind of ideas are your father's way of media, right? So I just think it's great. And I'm fortunate. I count my blessings that I parted ways with ESPN at the time it happened, because that was kind of the explosion of your own brand. You don't need ESPN for your brand. Make your brand. And I think that's happened with a lot of people, hopefully us included.
So there's a lot going on with Deshaun Watson right now, Andrew. Let's get into the hearing yesterday, today. We don't know how long it's going to go. Just give us the entire breakdown of everything we need to know about the Deshaun Watson hearing right now.
It's a different process, as has been reported. Judge Sue Robinson is a former federal judge in Delaware, whereas she is hearing this. She's appointed jointly by the NFLPA and the NFL, according to the new system of the CBA. She's hearing from the NFL, who I am told is focusing on 5 women, not all 24, 5 women, where I suppose there's particularly egregious conduct of Watson towards them in the massage rooms. The NFLPA, we hear, is focusing on not necessarily a player discipline precedent, but owner discipline precedent, the fact there has been minimal to no discipline for similar activities by Daniel Snyder, Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, and potentially others. She will hear this. We are in day 2. She will make a determination. If there is discipline, which we expect, well, let's just say this. If there's no discipline, end of discussion. If there is discipline, which we expect, it can be appealed by either side to, guess who? Roger Goodell. And he will either confirm the determination of discipline, or he can adjust and actually increase discipline if he is want to do so. So the key fact is Roger Goodell is not judge, jury, and executioner anymore, but he is Supreme Court judge. Like, he's the end of the line. He's the appellate judge to Judge Robinson. So it's the first time this process is being done. My sense is the hearing will end today or tomorrow. She will ask for briefs from both sides, like a legal proceeding, and we'll have a determination from her within, I'd say, a week to 2 weeks, and then a confirmation if we have an appeal or not. But I think this will be resolved before training camp.
So a lot of different questions here. Number one is, if you're Deshaun Watson and his legal supporters, I think it's unlikely they would appeal, right? I mean, why would they want to appeal to Goodell when I don't think he's going to go softer than what Sue Robinson does, right?
Well, appeal doesn't cost them anything. I mean, except money paid by the NFLPA.
But couldn't he make the discipline even worse, theoretically?
Yes, he could. And the reports are that the NFL has wanted a year plus. In other words, indefinite, where he can reapply after a year, which would sort of make sure he's on his best behavior this year and not reaching out, so he could play next year. I don't know what the NFLPA wants. Maybe no discipline, which seems to be very, I don't know, pie in the sky to suggest no discipline. There's reports that maybe both sides would take 6 to 8 games. I don't see the NFL taking that. But, this could all be negotiated before it gets back to Judge Robinson today, or before it goes to appeal, before she renders her opinion. It could all be negotiated. Would the NFL take a year? I think so. Would Watson's team take a year? Probably not. So we'll see where this lands.
That is interesting about the 6 to 8 games. Really interesting. So, but if you're the NFL, let's say you want a full year, Andrew. She does 6 to 8 games. So don't you just appeal and then Goodell does the full year, which is what you wanted? The whole fact that he is the appeals officer is bizarre because he's representing one side.
Yeah. I do think there's politics involved here. Maybe that's not the right word. This woman is rendering her first opinion. Does Roger Goodell want to overrule her as part of the first effort by this process that he has supported, that his owners have collectively bargained, that they have given the NFLPA as a concession about commissioner discipline while they get the good economics in the CBA and everything else they wanted? I don't know. Think about that part. Think about there's politics involved. Does Roger Goodell want to go back to, I'll just determine it. I don't care what anyone below me thinks. So I think he will be somewhat deferential to Judge Robinson.
Very interesting, Andrew. The whole thing is interesting. If you had to predict, where would you peg it at?
Yeah. I'd predict between 8 games and a season.
Okay.
Now that's a big, I know. It's 8 games worth, but we'll see.
8-17, yeah. I said this on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL. It seems to me like if it's 8 games or more, boy, it's going to be hard for the Browns to have much of a season. In other words, 8 games, 10 games, 12 games, by the time he comes back, Andrew, and he's missed like almost 2 years, maybe they can be around 500 when he comes back, but the AFC's tough. I guess I feel like 10 games or 12 games, that has the same impact as the whole season. I mean, the Browns season is essentially done. He'd probably be playing in games that are somewhat meaningless.
Yeah, and I guess I would add the caveat that the NFL would take that if there's some kind of kicker if he reaches out again. Now listen, psychologists and criminal psychologists will listen to this and know a lot more than I am. But if this guy has reached out 66 times in a year to massage therapists on Instagram, he's going to do it again, right? I mean, he's going to do it again. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is getting into psychoanalysis, but if I'm the NFL, I want a kicker. Like, if this happens again, we're not sitting at 8 to 17 weeks, right? We're going to add. We're going to add. So that would be my concern if I'm the NFL.
Wow. So you think, Andrew, that he's got a problem and that he's not going to be able to stop even after the discipline comes?
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm venturing into areas way beyond my expertise. But I am told, I mean, a lot of these people have said this to me on Twitter, like he can't stop. So again, this is amateur. This is amateur hour for psychology. But yeah, I think looking from the NFL point of view, you want to have an ability to add discipline if this happens again.
Talk to me about the lawsuit from Tony Buzbee, the alleged victim's lawyer against the Texans. Does it matter? Does it not matter?
The Texans thought they were out of this. They got their 3 number ones. They moved the problem to Cleveland, but not so fast. Listen, again, I had Jenny Vrentas on my podcast. My eyebrows antenna were raised hearing this. We all make allowances for stars. When Brett was with us or Aaron Rodgers, I mean, certainly let the agent in the building, let family members in the building, little things. But what I heard about Houston with Deshaun Watson, making a swanky hotel in Houston available with rooms, with access, an NDA in his locker. Now, does this rise to the level of liability civilly? We're going to find out. But this concerns me. And my antenna raised as a former salary cap manager. Wait a minute. What were they paying for these rooms? Were they paying for him to have a room for massage? What's going on there? Because anything beyond the contract in terms of compensation is a cap violation. So I think the Houston Texans have to answer these questions, whether to the NFL or to the court.
Is this really bad for the NFL, Andrew, or is it not really bad? Sometimes I think I don't know, man. It's late June. It's almost 4th of July. Everybody's talking about the NFL. I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. I think Jerry Jones probably doesn't think it's the worst thing in the world. Everybody's talking about the NFL and Deshaun Watson right now.
Yeah. And I think Daniel Snyder is confident he can run out the clock on appearing before Congress, and then they'll go on their summer break, and then everybody will be on training camp, and then 100 stores will be in front of Daniel Snyder. Yeah, I mean, this is the nonstop. I'm as busy as ever in the quote unquote dead period of the NFL. So yeah, there is a part of them that likes the PR, the marketing. We're talking about this. But we're going to see, Ross. The personal conduct policy is an invention of Roger Goodell. He has been very active with it, as everyone knows, in his 16-year tenure. And we'll see where this goes. He was too hard on conduct for a long time. He was too soft on Ray Rice. Where's the pendulum right now? How do they let Deshaun Watson on the field this year with trying to appeal to women, and what Major League Baseball did a 2-year ban to Trevor Bauer? A lot to see what's going to happen here.
You mentioned Daniel Snyder. What can you just give us the summary of what's going on there?
He was asked to appear in front of Congress before. He declined. Roger Goodell took a solid for him, answered all those questions about the Commanders. Now he's subpoenaed, and the story is that I'm not sure he refused the subpoena, but he said, well, my lawyer's unavailable out of the country. Okay. So here we go. As I just said, I think he is running the clock on Congress. They're going to take their summer break, and he's supposedly trying to find a date that works, but I don't think he will before they go on break, and we'll see. I didn't think you could turn down subpoenas, but he's got lawyers that are seemingly able to do this or delay. And Daniel Snyder continues to avoid being questioned by Congress.
You got to check him out on social media at Andrew Brandt. That way you know everything he's up to, including the awesome Business of Sports podcast that if you don't listen to, you are missing out. Andrew, thank you so much for the time as always. Really appreciate it.
You got it, Ross.
That guy is hired when it comes to getting the update on what's going on legally, financially in the NFL. I blew away my family the other night when I told them that LinkedIn has over 810 million people. Think about that. 810 million people. So why not create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs so you can reach your network and beyond? Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Ross. That's linkedin.com/Ross to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Tux Takes.
Good morning. Let's start today with the Washington Commanders, and Terry McLaurin signs a 3-year, up to $71 million extension that is 76.4% guaranteed, $28 million signing bonus.
Right. So a couple thoughts here. One is great for Terry. That's amazing. He has been really productive his first 3 years with, I think I read 8 different starting quarterbacks, which is just insane. So good for Terry. He deserves it. The other thought is wide receivers are getting paid left and right. I find it hard to believe that Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf will play it down this year without new contracts based on what they've seen classmates like A.J. Brown as well as Terry McLaurin get. I just don't see it happening. By the way, I think all these guys, A.J. Brown, second-round pick, Terry McLaurin was, I think, a 3rd-round pick. DK Metcalf, 2nd round. Deebo Samuel, 2nd round. There's something there that's interesting. I also think it's interesting that wide receivers just are getting paid this much in general these days. And I think I tweeted this last night at Ross Tucker NFL. Tight ends are crazy underpaid. I talked about it with Darren Waller a few weeks ago, but crazy underpaid.
Tuck's Takes.
Anything else you want to add following up on your conversation with Andrew about Tony Buzbee and his lawsuit against the Texans on behalf of Watson victims?
No, other than I think the timing is interesting of like settling with Deshaun Watson, filing against the Texans, if that makes sense, right? It's like they got their money from Deshaun, 20 of the 24 did, and now Buzbee. I know double dip is not the right term here, but I think Buzbee wants to double down, maybe. I don't know. I think he wants to try to get more money from the Texans for their liability.
Tuck's Takes.
Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell going to square off in late July. Explain.
Evidently, they're going to fight in the undercard of 2 YouTube stars who are fighting against each other. This is evidently how you make the most money on YouTube now. I don't know, man. I mean, good for them, I guess. So I got 2 different thoughts, Brian. My first thought was that I'll be honest, that it was sad. You know, I'd like to think that guys like Adrian Peterson and Le'Veon Bell could make enough money from their football careers that they didn't have to go into a ring and get another concussion, get punched in the face, all those things. The flip side is they're grown men. It's their decision. I'm sure they're getting paid a pretty penny to do it. It's obviously worth it to them to do it. So more power to them. Good for them, I guess. But you wouldn't catch me in that ring. There's no amount of money with the ailments I have that I would go in a ring and take that chance. So, yeah, I guess I think it's kind of sad. But these guys have been playing recently, so they kind of have a different perspective, I suppose.
Tuck's Takes.
Amazon, their Thursday night package, they are filling out their talent roster. Andrew Whitworth and Aqib Talib, the latest 2 to join that show, if you will.
Well, Whitworth is a stud. I think he'll do very well. In general, I think for the most part, I think O-linemen are pretty good on the air. Obviously, I'm biased, but I like a lot of other O-linemen that I hear on the air. So I think Whit will be good. Aqib Talib has obviously already been out there for a while. People are familiar with him. So that's I think that those guys are good. You don't know until you see the show, but I think Andrew Whitworth just retiring and Aqib Talib, I think they're getting a different group of people than have been elsewhere, and people will tune in to check them out. And I think that's really what Amazon's looking for as much as possible. Sherman and Fitz. I think it's an interesting group.
Tuck's Takes.
Baker Mayfield says that the Cleveland Browns would have to reach out for reconciliation, but essentially both sides have mutually moved on.
He kind of left the window open a little bit, Bri. He kind of did. He kind of left the window open just a little bit there for the Browns to reach out to him. I don't think the Browns are going to do that unless Watson's done for the year or done for a significant amount of time. And I don't think the Browns are going to do that until they know how long Deshaun Watson's out, which makes sense. And by that point, they might have already traded Baker Mayfield. So it feels like the Seahawks maybe are not really trying to get another quarterback. So the Panthers might have their pick of Baker Mayfield and Garoppolo and can kind of leverage that situation, which is interesting. Let's get to an email, Brian. Monday inspired me to try to get to more emails. Although I will say this, very, very low on emails. I need you guys to take advantage of sponsors and send me new emails, ross@rosstucker.com.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
Already told you, Ross at rosstucker.com. You can always send me an email for any reason, speaking engagement, whatever. But you can also, or if you want to advertise on the show, that'd be great. But you can also send me a question even without a sponsor. I might get to it eventually. If you have a sponsor, we get to it right away.
Today's question from Jake. Hey, Ross, love to hear an off-season episode that dives into the art of live broadcasting. For example, I'm one who thinks that Tony Romo talks way too much and that his overexuberance is distracting. I'm an Aikman-style guy by comparison, and that's just television color analyst. You obviously have limitless connections in that medium. Just think it would be cool to hear a couple guys talk shop on what works and what doesn't, different styles and philosophies, etc. Anyway, thanks for all the great content.
I think that is probably more of that seems like an episode idea as opposed to answering a question. What I will tell you, Jake, is that you just explained in 2 paragraphs why it's an interesting business. It's a subjective medium. It's a subjective industry. I think if you polled people, more people like Tony Romo than Troy Aikman. But you feel like Tony Romo talks too much? You think his overexuberance is distracting? I think that's fine. Look, everyone has the right to like and dislike what they choose. A lot of people really like Collinsworth. Some people don't. Evidently, you really like Aikman. Some people would like a little bit more energy, a little bit more excitement. I would tell you, look, this is a much longer conversation. From my perspective, I like to be able to tell that the guy that's doing it is really having a good time. I think it's entertainment, and I think it's enjoyment. And I hope when I do a game, that's all I can really speak to, Jake. I hope that people learn a few new things, that I do provide some unique insight that they learn from. And I also hope that they enjoy it, that they laugh a couple times. You know, this is not supposed to be that serious. It's football. It's entertainment. So that's what I'm into. That's what I like. I like to be able to tell when I'm listening or watching that the person doing the broadcast loves it. Very important to me. Shout outs, by the way, Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bengals.com, Evergreen Economics. We will have Greg Cosell, the GOAT, tomorrow to wrap up the draft pick series, breaking down divisions. We will also have Joe Dolan going over his ADP, overrated, underrateds, on today's Fantasy Feast, which you should definitely check out. Other than that, I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.